Good evening, everyone. We continue from where we left off yesterday. We were at the end of Second Samuel chapter 16. Uh, and we found how Ahithophel had advised Avshalom in some of the most eerie activities and to dispel the myth that he is afraid of David. He actually showed disdain to his father and collected his strength. And as Ahithophel began to discover that his advice is well taken, in chapter 17, we see that he is now planning his ultimate to pursue David and to kill him with the excuse that it's for Avshalom. Understand that we also saw in chapter 15, Hushai was sent back to be close to Avshalom so that he's able to at least give an advice to show that Hushai is giving better advice than Ahithophel. But as of now, we are not seeing it at all. But bear in mind that that was the idea to advise Avshalom so that David could be uh, told of the plan and be ready for the eventuality. Now, in chapter 17, we begin to see that plan that David and Hushai hatch is beginning to bear fruit. In chapter 17, verse 1, we read of Ahithophel. Now, this word furthermore is also the idea of and then. This is a subsequent event as the narrative progressed from chapter 16 to chapter 17. These are some of the things that is going to happen after chapter 16 has taken place. Now, we don't know how long, but yes, we know that this is how the narrative goes. And so Ahithophel initiated to suggest to Avshalom the idea that he's going to give is this: let me choose 12,000 men. Now, the idea of choose is to go around and appoint, selecting 12,000 men. And let me set out and pursue David. Now, pursue David is to chase David, right? Pursue is to chase after David tonight. And so there was a time pressure because David has not moved away from where he was, where we left off yesterday, uh, at a place called Bahurim, right? At a place called Bahurim, and that is where David was at this time. And in verse 2, he continues, says, and I will attack him. This means come upon him. Come upon him is really an expression that, it's going to spring on him uh, while he is weary. The idea of weary here is very tired, right? When he's tired and exhausted, the idea of exhausted means that he is weak in hand. That's the Hebrew phrase. And then he will startle him. And the idea of startling him is to cause him to tremble, right? Cause him to tremble. Surprise him, basically. So that all the people who are with him will flee. Now, the idea of flee is to escape. It is to cause a ruckus that the people will be confused, they will run, and I will strike and kill the king when he is alone. This is the plan to kill David. This is hatched. Now, verse 3 is his, I guess, his sell point to Avshalom. The selling point is that I will bring all the people back to you. The people who are with David, and the return of everyone depends on the man whom you are seeking, and that would be David. Then all the people will be at peace, will be shalom. However, you can see that all the people back to you are also the people who stands with David. And I think this would be more than the ones who is physically with David. They are also the ones right across the nation. But the whole idea here is that once David is eliminated from this equation, then the throne will have no obstruction. Today, we're talking about a mutiny where Absalom is trying to usurp the throne. But without the support of everyone in the nation, it is very difficult for Absalom to really sit in peace. In verse 4, we find that, and then after hearing the plan, Absalom was pleased. Now, this idea of plan in the Hebrew is still the same word, davar. Davar means a matter, the issue, the words, whatever that was spoken by Ahithophel. In English, the translator would call it the plan, but in the Hebrew, these are the words that were spoken by Ahithophel, and it pleased. Now, this word pleased, Avshalom, literally means is agreeable. This is the word yashar, which is straight. When used in a moral sense, then this would be smooth and lawful. When used in a general sense, then it means that Avshalom saw the words that Ahithophel spoke as something that it is smooth in his mind. And so he is agreeable. And all the elders of Israel as well, these are the old men who represents their tribes. And obviously, when they heard this and the old men agreed with Ahithophel, it appears that the narrative is telling us that these old men doesn't know much about what they're thinking of. And so they are misrepresenting their tribe. Verse 5. Now, verse 5 is interesting because this is the turning of Ahithophel. Nevertheless, is and then. Avshalom now says, yeah, let's call Hushai the Archite and let's hear what he has to say. The idea here is to listen to what he has to say. The idea of what he has to say literally means what is coming out of his mouth. What is in his mouth. Now, this is a very literal way of translating, but you get the idea. This is a Hebrew expression. Let's hear what is in his mouth. Basically, guess what he has to say to Avshalom. Verse 6. And then, again, and then somebody fetched Hushai, and Hushai came to Avshalom. And then we find another and then here. And then Avshalom said to him, and that would be Hushai, says, Ahithophel has proposed this plan. Now, this idea of propose this plan literally means have said, like like the words he spoke. So it's always about the davar. And so this is the plan exactly here, right? This is the plan, the words that he spoke. And the question is this: shall we do it? If not, say so yourself. So carry out the same plan, which is davar. Should we do it? That would be the question. Should we do it? And if not, you speak. This is how the Hebrew puts it, right? If not, you speak or say so yourself. That would be, very nice English style. You can virtually imagine Avshalom telling Hushai, this is what Ahithophel has said. These are the words he said. Should we do it? Should we do his words? If not, you speak. And so it shows that Avshalom is very wise. He is finding a second opinion. And why is it that Hushai's opinion is important? We will soon find out. Verse 7 is what Hushai says, and verse 7 is a very critical feedback from Hushai. So, and then, after Avshalom told him, you speak, and Hushai said to Avshalom, this is what it means. If not, you speak. And so Hushai spoke. And so what do you think Hushai would say? He doesn't agree. So the idea is right here. This time, the advice that Ahithophel has given is not good. Now, this is interesting. This is saying this time, the advice, the counsel that Ahithophel has given is not tov. Not tov, and is not agreeable, not functional. It is not going to work. That is what Hushai is saying. It is not going to work. Hushai now explains in verse 8. He says, then, that would be and then. Hushai explains, you yourself know your father and his men, and they are warriors, and they are fierce like a bear deprived of her cubs in the field. Now, warriors, this is Gibor, right? Gibor. Gibor means they're heroes, they are warriors. And your father is an expert in warfare. This means that he is a man of war. Right? He's a man of war. Very good in the battle. And he will not spend the night with the people. Now, this idea, spend the night, means um, he will not lodge, he will not dwell with the people, which means that when the people are attacked, David won't be there. The idea is to split and separate David from the rest so that not everything is in one basket. That is the strategy of a man of war. Verse 9, behold, look, he has now hidden himself in one of the ravines. This word is uh, a pit, right? A hole. This would mean that he is hiding or in another place or in one of the places. The text says in one of the places where he can hide. And it would be that when he falls on them at the first, whoever hears it will say there has been a slaughter among the people who will follow Avshalom. So this whole aspect is that these are warriors and they know how to fight and they are able to withstand any I would say any surprises that Ahithophel may be bringing to David and his people. Uh, and if that's the case, then everyone would think that there has been a massacre if that happens, and the people will not follow Avshalom. It is very important that when David is killed, that the people must see it or hear it as only David was killed and nobody else. And that is how Hushai is explaining why Ahithophel's plan is not workable. The warriors will fight, many people will die, and people will hear of it as a massacre, and he will lose the people who are besides him, as well as the ones who are following David. Verse 10, he says that even the one who is valiant. Now, the one who is valiant uh, means the one who is strong. The one who is strong. It says here, the son of power, right? Or the son of strength. One who is valiant, whose heart is like that of a heart of a lion. Uh, this really gives us a picture that in the land of Israel, the lion as an animal is seen as one who is strong and who is very willing to fight. And if that would be the case, uh, will completely despair. For all Israel knows that your father is a mighty man, and those who are with him are valiant men. And so the idea here is um, you will lose the support of all these people who are with David. And if you want to be king, you need to win them all over. And so, what would be a better plan? That's verse 11. Verse 11 is this: this is how I will counsel. I will counsel. And this is an alternative to what Ahithophel is saying. that all Israel be gathered to you. So you gather all Israel, and this would be the 12 tribes, right? The 12 tribes, all Israel. You want to be king, you need to do that. From Dan even to Beersheba. Now, this is a very, I guess, a very Israel type of expression. Dan is the north, Beersheba is the south. From north to south, all 12 tribes be gathered like the sand that is by the sea in abundance. Now, you need to understand the sea, the sand that is by the seashore, the sand that is upon the sea. This is an expression of numbers. If you recall the promise of God to Abraham that your seed will be like the stars in the sky, like sand by the sea, this is exactly how it is expressed. It is an expression of numbers being uncountable. This is not to say that the number of Israelites that is gathered for battle will be like the sand of the sea. It is just an expression. It will look like the sand of the sea because of the abundance, because of the multitude, because of the greatness. This is the word of greatness, greatness in number. And then it says that you personally go into battle, right? You would go into battle. You personally is saying that your face will walk into the fight. And this will show that Avshalom will be able to lead, right? To show that he is a leader, that his face is there at the front of the battlefield, that he is there to lead them into the fight. Verse 12. Then we will come to him in one of the places where he can be found, and then we will fall on him just as the dew falls to the ground. Now, this idea of dew fall to the ground, this word fall, is to settle down on David. Very quietly. Like you can't hear the dew, right? Very quietly come upon him, and of him and of all the men who are with him, that not even one will be left. Now, in this sense, you find that, yes, all the men of battle will be killed, but Avshalom is seen as the one in front, and it could be seen that Avshalom is the leader of all the army, and will be left standing. In verse 13, if he withdraws into a city, that all Israel shall bring ropes to that city, will drag it to the valley until not a pebble is found there. This is an expression of strength that David, that no place to hide, that David cannot go anywhere. Even if it's in a city, that city will be flattened to the ground. They will drag it away. That's the kind of expression, right? And that's what we're seeing here in a lot of words by Hushai. Verse 14. Then means, and then after Avshalom listened to Hushai, Avshalom and all the men of Israel said, the advice of Hushai the Archite is better than the advice of Ahithophel. This basically tells us that Hushai has managed to win over Avshalom. This word is and then. The Lord had ordained to foil the good advice of Ahithophel in order for the Lord to bring disaster on Avshalom. Now, this in itself is a comment. It is a comment in the sense that after you see the plan of David and Hushai had succeeded, the comment is ascribing to God. Now, this is a very Hebrew way of saying things. When things are working out, they ascribe it to God. When things have gone wrong, they ascribe it to God. Now, this is just a way of expression. It is not to say that God engineered this or put words into Hushai's mouth. This is not about Hushai being a prophet, that Hushai have heard what God said, and this is what he said that God wants him to say. This is basically saying that the word ordained is the word command. It is not ordained in sense of predestined the actions. It is, well, I wouldn't use the word ordain here. I would the word is really command. Because the word ordain gives a very different picture, right? Gives a different picture. This is what God has commanded, like the Sabaoth, right? Has commanded to foil, and this would be to break the good counsel of Ahithophel. Because at the end of chapter 16, everybody, including Avshalom, thinks that Ahithophel appears to be speaking such words of wisdom that it appears that it's from God, but it's not. But he is very good in his advice, in his counsel. Definitely, he's a wise man. And Hushai now manages to break that advice of Ahithophel, and Avshalom agrees with Hushai. And that is the idea of this side comment. And by breaking it, then what is going to happen is that there is going to be disaster. There's going to be evil. This word is Ra. Ra'ah. It's going to bring evil upon Avshalom. Right? It's going to bring evil upon Avshalom. Verse 15. Then after Avshalom was agreeable, the second part of the plot, it is the plan of Zadok and Aviatar with David. That's why Zadok and Aviatar and their two sons went back. And Hushai said to Zadok and Aviatar, the priest, the Kohanim, this is what Ahithophel advised Avshalom and the elders of Israel, and this is what I have counseled. Now, this is important because that is the whole plan, and David needs to understand this. Verse 16, and now send quickly and tell David. And every time you see the word send, notice this is in italics. This is supplied by the translator. And this is okay because ever since we read from chapter 11, The word sent, which is shalach, always implies a messenger, right? Not servants, but messenger. Very quickly and tell David, say this: do not spend the night at the river crossing places of the wilderness of the Aravat. Aravot. The idea of crossing places is a bit of a challenge. The idea is not the river, right? It is not the river. It is actually the plains, right? The plains. Do not stay the night in the Aravot, in the wilderness, in the desert plains of the desert of the this word here is wilderness, the midbar, right? The desert plains of the desert. Where is that? In the flatlands of the desert. Instead, you should cross over. Cross over literally means pass over. Pass over the Jordan. Go to the eastern side. Go to the eastern side. Else the king and all the people who are with him will be destroyed. This word destroy is swallowed up, engulfed. Remember, the whole plan was for the entire 12 tribes to be with Avshalom. And so leave Israel, so to speak, leave Israel, cross over to the other side of the Jordan. When you cross over to the other side of the Jordan, so you just understand the map, right? The map is this. We have Jerusalem. Next to it would be the Mount of Olives. That's next to it. That's the Mount of Olives. Now, not too far off, you have the Dead Sea, right? The Salt Sea. And you have the Jordan. Now, what happened is David is in the plains, right? This is the plains. This is the desert plain. And he is advised to cross over. When you cross over, we are in the place of the Moabites and the Ammonites. That is what is happening here. So just have this at the back of your mind. Verse 17. Jonathan, Jehonathan, and Ahimaaz, they were staying in En Rogel. And a maidservant would go and inform them, and they would go and inform the king, for they could not allow themselves to be seen entering the city. Now, what happened is you find that now this is fundamentally what happened. We have the maidservants go to En Rogel. En Rogel would be a place nearby, actually, somewhere up here, En Rogel. And so we have a female servant that will go and tell Jonathan and Ahimaaz. And so that they would then go and tell David, who is in the desert. The reason why all this is happening very clandestinely was because it is a secret mission. It is a mission of great proportions, of immense consequences, because it's regarding the life of David. Verse 18. Interestingly, and then a boy actually saw them. That's too bad. And then he told Avshalom. So the two of them left quickly and came to the house of a man in Bahurim, who had a well in his courtyard, and they went down into it. Now, a well is a pit as well. Uh, this literally means but this literally means Ba'er is like Beersheba, a well, that's a hole in the ground. And they went into it to hide. Verse 19. And then the woman took a cover and spread over the well's mouth and scattered barley meal on it so that nothing was known. So there is a hiding. So we have a well, and she spreaded a cloth over it. And on top of it, she was drying up her barley. And so nobody knows that there was a well there. Verse 20. And then, this is another and then, Avshalom's servants came to the woman at the house uh, and said, "Where are Ahimaaz and Jehonathan?" And the woman said to them, "They have crossed the brook of water. They have crossed the river." And when they searched and they did not find them, they returned to Jerusalem. So the soldiers came and searched, but did not find them. Now, this is very similar to the case of Rahav, isn't it? Rahab in the place of Jericho, where she told the soldiers in Jericho that the spies from Israel has gone another direction. So this is a case of misdirection, and it is to protect the lives of these two men, Ahimaaz and Jehonathan, right? The two of them. Verse 21. Verse 21 says, there is an and then after the soldiers, the servants of Avshalom left, it came after they had departed, that they came up out of the well, went and reported to King David. And then they said to David, "Set out and cross over the water quickly, because this is what Ahithophel has advised against you." Across the Jordan, basically. Verse 22. We have another word, and then David and all the people who were with him set out and crossed the Jordan, crossed the water, crossed the Jordan. And by dawn, now uh, this word dawn literally means uh, by morning, when there was light, or when the light started to come out in the sky. That's the word dawn. Not even one remained who had not crossed the Jordan. So through the night, they have done all these, crossed the Jordan, right? It is very important for us to realize they crossed the Jordan. Now, once you cross the Jordan, you realize that Avshalom would not come after David. Verse 23. And then when Ahithophel saw that his counsel had not been followed, he saddled his donkey and he set out. This is a male donkey, and he arose, and then he went to his home, to his city, and then he set his house in order, and then hanged himself. The word hanged himself comes from the word strangle, right? Strangle oneself. And so hang is a correct understanding, and it's by rope around the neck. And so he died and was buried in his father's grave. So Ahithophel had, I guess he was uh, totally lost his bearing. He felt that he has lost his control. He has lost his influence over Avshalom. When Avshalom followed Hushai's advice. And with this ended Ahithophel's reign as the counselor of the kings. Now, very quickly, we will come to the rest of the chapter in verse 24. And then David came to Mahanaim. Now, Mahanaim is, it's probably a case, a place, how should we say, a place where Jacob was when he had the dream, when he saw that there were angels and a ladder moving up and down. Now that's Machanaim of two camps. Now, that may be the same place or it may not be, because we're talking about another place. It's across the river from Israel. And then Avshalom crossed the Jordan, he and all the men of Israel with him. Verse 25. We find that Avshalom pushed across the Jordan. Avshalom put Amasa, uh, Avshalom put Amasar in command of the army instead of Joab, because Joab has followed David. Amasar was the son of a man of Itra, the Israelites, who had relations with Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, the sister of Zeruiah, Joab's mother. So Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, is also the sister of David, right? The sister of David. And this is Nahash. Now, some would say that Nahash is Jesse. There are others who suggest that this would be the Nahash of the Ammonite king. And this was a sister who was not from the same mother as the other brothers of David. Now this passage in verse 25 gives us that concept. The sister of Zeruiah, these would be the sisters of David, the two of them, right? Joab is the son of Zeruiah. Amasa is the son of Itra, who is the husband of Abigail. Verse 26, and Israel and Avshalom camped in the land of Gilead. This would be in the land of in the land of, I would say this would be Manasseh, right? In the land of Gad and Manasseh. This is slightly higher than where David would have gone. In verse 27, while Absalom and Israel camped in their own Israel territory, David came to Mahanaim, and this word here is Shovi. Now, Shovi is another son of Nahash from Ravah of the sons of Ammon. Machir, the son of Amiel from Lo Davar. The third one is Barzillai, the Gilead from Roglim. Now, what I want to highlight to you is this name, Shovi. Shovi from Nahash is the other son of Nahash. The previous son would have been in, I guess it would be Second Samuel. Would it be Second Samuel? Second Samuel, yes. In Second Samuel, chapter 10, we find that there is a son by name of Hanum, and he, how should we say, he was supposed to be comforted after Nahash died, but he didn't, and he embarrassed David by shaving the beard and also cutting up the clothes of the men, the servants who went to see him. Now, Shovi is the other son who now has befriended David, and they have brought beds, basins, pottery, wheat, barley, flour, roasted grain, beans, lentils, and roasted seeds, honey, curds, sheep, cheese from the herds for David and the people who were with him to eat. For they said, the people are hungry and exhausted and thirsty in the wilderness. This is an act of kindness, an act of loyalty of what David had done for Nahash. And so with this, we are now at the end of chapter 17, at the time before the conflict between Absalom, who is a little bit up north, and David, who is at Mahanaim, and his friends from the nations around him in Ammon, in Lo Davar, in Gilead, in Rogelim, came to see him. And these are friends of David who are not Israelites. And you can imagine that these are friends of David who is closer and more loyal to David than his son could ever be. And this would have been a very trying time for David indeed. And with this, we come to the end of chapter 17.